Celtic are back in action on Saturday night, 5:30 at Celtic Park with Kilmarnock, the visitors, as we make our first defence of the Scottish Cup this season. This is Tino with the count at the kick-off. I'm joined here by Paddy. Paddy, the big question, a lot of talk after the 3-3 draw with Dundee during the week, but will the manager take this opportunity to shake up his starting lineup? What do you think?
I think, as I kind of said on the pre-match for Dundee, I think he'll probably try and look at who's his starting 11 is going to be for the game on Wednesday. I think we've been crying out for a little bit more cohesion, a little bit more of familiarity with the starting lineup. So I would imagine that the team that starts tomorrow will be a team that comes in for the game on Wednesday. So I think we'll likely see the return of Diaz and Idah. I think we'll see Kyogo up top, and I think we'll see Nicholas Kuhn all start tomorrow as our front three. So I think that he knows that that's going to be his strongest attack. The big question is in the centre. The big question is in the midfield. So, but yeah, I don't think we'll have too many surprises from what we've seen in our strongest lineups this season.
What's your general take, Paddy? Obviously, you and I discussed things earlier in the week, but what's your general take of what seems to be the ongoing fallout over Dundee? Yes, we were poor on the night. Yes, we've conceded 3 goals, but is it the disaster that some folks are making out?
I think I wouldn't say disaster, but I think a few people are concerned about when teams have come up to us face to face. We're shitting goals quite easily. Don't really seem to be laying a glove back. And as I said, we need players that are willing to just put everything on the line and make sure that the ball isn't getting to where it's getting. I think sometimes there is that little bit of complacency that can creep in, and maybe a few of the players at the midfield going into the defence are expecting someone else to kind of pick up from their mistakes. But to be honest with you, this is where our captain should come in, and we've seen it many times before from Callum McGregor. He can get the players playing with that commitment, that real sense of fighting for the cause. And if we don't see that on the park and we know that McGregor's playing, that's when we know there's a bit of an issue, in my opinion. I think he's been well known for getting the boys up for the game, and I think of late when we're kind of going into those games, you're looking at the Dortmunds, you're looking at Bruges, you're looking at obviously Rangers, even in the cup final conceding the 3 goals. We need someone just really to take the game with the scruff of the neck, and we've not seen an awful lot of that in the last 5-6 weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting, you mentioned just earlier on there about that front three, Celtic's absolutely favoured front three of Kuhn, Kyogo and Maeda. Those 3 haven't started together since the Rangers game on the 2nd of January, so we've now had 4 games since, and for a variety of reasons, whether it was injury or preferring Idah for a game and different things, those 3 haven't started, and there's no doubt, Paddy, that they were a huge part of the success Celtic have had in this certainly first half of the season. So the sooner we get that trio back together, the better, in my opinion. You mentioned the captain, and for good reason, Paddy. Undroppable, should he be? Will he be?
No, I don't think we'll drop him for the next 2 games. Absolutely not. I think he's too pivotal in what we do, and I understand the worry about Callum McGregor. I totally take that on board, but now's not a time you press a panic button. Now's the time you need Callum McGregor, with all his experience, to step up and actually make sure that he's pulling his 2 other midfielders in to help him a bit more, and probably looking for a bit more help from the 2 full-backs who tend to move in. Well, more so Greg Taylor move into the centre of the park. I think he maybe just wants that little bit more protection. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do see the likes of either Arne Engels, or if it's going to be Bernardo Hattati or McCowan. And I think it's Luke McCowan's jersey for me at the moment. Whether they drop in and support him enough, I think that's a big factor for Callum McGregor, and something that he needs.
Yeah, and it's something that he'll definitely need more so against Young Boys on Wednesday, maybe less so against Kelly tomorrow night, and that's the ongoing balancing act that the manager needs to find. Paddy, a lot of the headlines are about Auston Trusty and Idah, and what you've got is a call for the manager to make. If he truly believes that Auston Trusty is his guy, and he's made comments during the game and certainly after the game that he's disappointed with how he responded to the physical challenge there. But if he genuinely believes in him, then he's got to back him and he's got to start him again tomorrow. A comment from Ian O'Sullivan, good friend of the show, Ian, from over in Cork. He said if Auston Trusty needs to toughen up, then there's no better game for him to do so than Kilmarnock tomorrow, a big physical side, and that we need Trusty for the young boys game, our biggest European game in 12 years. And Paddy, what we've got here is a situation where, yes, the cliche of one game at a time will always come into play for a manager, but he can't not be considering Wednesday when picking his lineup for tomorrow. So specifically the situation with Auston Trusty, what do you think he's going to go with there?
I think he'll play him. I do. And it's no disrespect to Liam Scales. I think Liam Scales would definitely come in and deputise, but I just think the game's a different prospect, especially against Kilmarnock tomorrow. But the game against Young Boys, we really need to take the game to them. We really need to go and try and set the tempo and go and take an early lead against them as soon as possible. I don't see that always coming from Liam Scales. As I've said to you before, that there's reasons he's received man of the match performances in the Champions League, which is not an easy thing to do, but it's because of his defensive displays when under the cosh. We shouldn't be in that position on Wednesday night. We should be taking the game to Young Boys. And yeah, listen, respect will always be there, as I've said, for any team that we play at that level. But we are expected to win. It wasn't a fluke result against Leipzig. It was a strong display, and we deserved to win the game. And we played to our strengths. I think that we need to play to our strengths on Wednesday night. And for me, that's keeping the ball on the deck and bringing it out for the back at a good pace.
Yeah, totally agree. Further comment from San Fran Celtic, and he said every single person watching Trusty struggling against Dundee must have been having flashbacks to Christopher Jullien one of those nights. But remember Jullien having his struggles physically against the likes of Lyndon Dykes when he was at Livy and that kind of situation. Do you see similarities, or do you think Trusty's a far stronger option than someone like Jullien was?
I actually think that Christopher Jullien was getting up to speed with the Scottish game and was understanding that it's a lot more physical, it's a lot more fast paced, and I think that sometimes it takes players longer than others. But I think Jullien was getting there. I remember those games. I remember the games getting bullied up in the arse of grass at holding up, and you're wondering what the next touch is going to be like. For me, I'm not saying enough of Auston Trusty to see if he will get through this, but I don't think you go and drop him players. I just don't think you do it like it can't be knee jerk in this moment. And I think that if we lost the game on Tuesday, I think it's maybe a bit of a different scenario, because he has had a really, really poor second half and really brought Dundee back into it, put himself under pressure, put his defensive partners under pressure as well. But this is where you want the team to be able to react to that. This is where every single one of us, if we've played football at any level, amateur, playing at school level, whatever, we've all come in for criticism, every single one of us. So I think that we want to see how he reacts. Not every player is going to play at their fullest potential every single game. So I think that we don't panic, we don't jump the gun, and we bring him back into the team tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the thing. So there's one or two ways to look at it. Auston Trusty could be, out of sorts, out of confidence, feeling sorry for himself, or actually he could go the other way. I don't think there'll be anybody more motivated at Celtic Park tomorrow than Auston Trusty to prove that was a one-off, and that's not who he is, and that's not his game. The manager has pretty much confirmed that they've had sharp words. They've spoken in the immediate aftermath of the game. There's no doubt they'll have spoken further in the few days that have followed. And I think he will start, and I think it's right to start him. And I say that with every respect to Liam Scales. I seen a stupid comment, and it is stupid. Somebody said, if Auston Trusty was Irish, Paddy and Tino would have had him playing and all that stuff. Nonsense, right? Regardless, age, nationality, all that kind of stuff, the right player plays, and that would always be our opinion. And if you think we're swayed by nationalities and a soft spot for all things Ireland, then that's miles off it, and you've not been watching closely enough. But that's how some people go. But ultimately, whether it's Liam Scales or Auston Trusty, the manager has to pick the right man for the job. I mean, if it came down to all of that, Brendan Rodgers, the Irishman, would be picking Liam Scales, the Irishman, for example. But I think Auston Trusty is the call, and I think he'll be highly motivated for this one tomorrow. Just before we get to the lineup, Paddy, Gypsy Kings mentioned David Pleat. Don't think David Pleat will start tomorrow, but he'll be in the mix. David Pleat, as most will know, former manager down south, played a big part at Spurs over the years. I think he was manager there, and latterly he was in some sort of scouting role with them. He's 80 years of age, but Spurs let him go at the end of last season. And it seems that through Celtic's connections with Paul Tisdale, who's now heading up our recruitment team, that Pleat's been given a role, an initial 12 months role to keep an eye on things down south for Celtic. What do you think of that? Does his age play a part, or indeed if he's still fit and able for it, is it a real asset given his knowledge of the game down there?
I think it's neither here or there, to be honest. Like, if this is someone that Tisdale's worked closely with and he has a bit of knowledge of the game down south, he's still keeping an eye on things, then absolutely, why not? We were having a discussion about it last night, and a few people were kind of saying, are we going backwards again? Are we not thinking outside the box? We've got similar people in positions, and I don't think scouting really marks up too much in terms of what the final say will be and whoever we sign. I think it's definitely a first step. It's a knock on the door to see if we're interested in a player. But, and no offence to him, but we've got Tosh McKinlay working at Celtic as a scout as well, and very, very quiet at his job. You don't hear much from him in the Scottish game. I think it'll be the same with David Pleat, to be honest. I'm not reading too much into it, but some of the comments about his age, like, enough of the ageism, lads.
Yeah, as I say, clearly, they've had discussions, and if they feel that he's still fit and able to do a job, then there's huge experience with a guy like that. And it certainly can't do any harm to have him keeping an eye on some things down south for us. So we'll see how that plays out. Big thanks, as always, to those that continue to join us on the live, especially the various folks that are currently commenting. San Fran Celtic, Sean, Ian O'Sullivan, Eugene, Gypsy King, various other guys there. Remember, as you guys will know, we do live pre and post match shows for every game. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and set on your notifications to ensure you don't miss a thing. To make any comments, you do need to be a member of the channel. The link to do so are in the show notes. And thanks on that note to Ian O'Sullivan, who's a new member. Ian, what took you so long? But good to have you on board here. Thanks for that. Paddy, let's kick on with the lineup, or what we think the lineup will be. One guy who's going to be doubtful based on recent headlines is Alex Valle at left back. The talk seems to have intensified about Kieran Tierney, and at the same time the suggestion is that Como in Italy are in for Alex Valle, and that Celtic and Barca, of course, as his parent club, are open to a move. What do you think about how all that's playing out there? Does it seem to be the beginning and the end for Valle at Celtic?
I would hope so, in the sense that if it meant he was going to go, it would mean that Kieran Tierney's on his way back and in this window. But it seems like Arsenal hold the key in terms of what the next steps are. I think the argument is that if Tierney was to leave now, he's leaving behind quite a substantial wage from now until the end of the season. And even if it is on a loan, I think Arsenal would expect him to take some sort of wage cut if he was coming to Celtic and not pay what they're supposed to pay. And I think he's potentially on line to earn around about $1.5 million. 1.5 million in the remainder of his contract. So a lot of thinking for Kieran Tierney to do, because that's a lot of money, of course. And I think he'll be trying to negotiate some sort of deal with Arsenal in order to try and A, redeem some of that, but B, help him get back and playing football regularly. That should be the front of his decision. But I do think it all relies on whether or not Kieran Tierney can negotiate his move away from Arsenal. And I think Celtic will be ready. If Celtic have to pay that fee, I think they should as well. Just get him back up the road and get him in the green and white again. Yeah, it'd be great to see. Money will always play a huge part. It's just, nobody can deny Kieran Tierney's love for Celtic, but there's the realities of it and the practicalities of it. And it'd be a hell of a move from him to walk away from $1.5 million if those are the figures involved. Just one other kind of separate piece of transfer news you'll have seen, Paddy, such Erling Haaland signing a 9.5-year extension at Man City. He's now contracted till 2034, which just seems ludicrous. I don't think those kind of contracts were allowed in football anymore, and folks of a certain age watching just now will remember Jim McLean's Dundee United. He used to get guys like Christian Daly and Duncan Ferguson on like these 7, 8 and 9 year deals, which was just a mad thing back in those days. What do you make of that kind of contract? It kind of blows out the water, this thing about Man City's charges against them and financial fair play and any restrictions. He will be getting an absolute fortune to be playing. I don't really know what to make of it. I think it was to for the value of it, it was to eradicate the potential clauses and the potential money that Haaland could make if he was to sign for the likes of Madrid or Barcelona. So I don't know if they've done it for the player. I don't know if it's a middle finger to all the charges that they're getting and all the money that they do have at their disposal. Not really sure. Don't really like the oil money coming in and making a mockery of the game as it has already. So yeah, up to them what to do with it, but it seems a bit weird to me.
Yeah, it's strange stuff. So I just thought I'd highlight it. It seems to be doing the rounds and there's a lot of chat around it. But we'll move back to all things Celtic for now, Paddy. So as I say, at the back, left back, probably not an option for Alec Valle. So on that front, you'd be most likely to see Greg Taylor. This would be appearance 201 for Greg Taylor, if that were to be the case. Alistair Johnston on the right. And you think we're going with Trusty, and I presume it's Carter Vickers you'd have alongside him?
Yeah. I think the big man's been in decent form for us, and good to see him actually rack up a few consecutive games as well. It'll do him the world of good too. So yeah, definitely Cameron and Carter Vickers for tomorrow.
I think so, alongside Trusty. JP's commented, good to see JP here, and he's saying that Trusty coming out against Kilmarnock could be a good thing to allow him time to reflect and get ready for young boys. I don't know, I get the point. I think he'll have done a lot of reflecting, JP, in the last few days. I think he'll have been going over that and ruminating against his bad performance against Dundee, but I think he'll be hungry to get back in. And I do think, to your point, Paddy, you wouldn't want too much chopping and changing between Saturday night's team and Wednesdays. I think you want to have them more or less the same to try and find that consistency again. But we'll see. And it'll be interesting, JP, as to what happens there. And in the midfield, Paddy, you've already made the claim that the skipper should be back in, and I agree with that, but I also don't think he should be undroppable. And I think if we're rotating various other guys on the 60-minute mark, then a guy who's nearly 32 should also be a part of that. If it comes to an hour in, and I think the point was made by Daniel Henderson during the week. Daniel saying, look, McEwen's playing well, scoring his goals, an hour in, he comes off instead of McGregor. Sometimes you should keep the momentum going with the guy that's playing well, but we'll see what the manager decides. But I think it will be McGregor, to your point. But who's alongside him then? Is it McEwen and one other?
I'd like to see it be Luke McEwen. I think he's earned his place, absolutely. I've got a weird feeling we'll see Rio Hatate tomorrow, and I think it'll be Rio Hatate and Arnott Engels. Rio,
Engels and Callum McGregor? Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? The Hatate thing keeps coming up because his talent is undoubted, but his inconsistency has become, consistently inconsistent, to use that term. But do you think when push comes to shove, he's the guy that more often than not gets the nod from the manager?
I think so. I think the manager sees him as probably the one of the three best at the club in terms of who's going to start. Consistency wise, it's not been there from Hatate, and I would never say that he's had a good season. I don't think he's been anywhere near what he's capable of, but I think it's one of those ones that he's not been starting so much lately, and I just think Rodgers is clever in terms of bringing people out the firing line, players that could come in and have a big impact. And I think that a game like Kilmarnock tomorrow is enough just to get the minutes in the legs. A game like Wednesday night, I think Rio Hatate rubs his hands at in terms of what he could bring to the table. They're a team that are there to be got at, and I think they've conceded the most in the tournament. I might be wrong, but they're definitely one of the worst defences, and I think that he fancies chances trying to unlock them. So there's one player that can do it and can definitely do it at that level. We've seen it before, it is Rio Hatate, but his performances of late have not been great. No,
they've not, and frustratingly so, Paddy, because we all know that he's got it in the locker. It's interesting how the midfield splits opinion, just in our comments here alone, but in the wider Celtic fan base. But Pat McLaughlin, Pat says he'd like to see Engels, McEwen and Bernardo, so notably no Callum McGregor in that, which is fine and fair. And then you've got Gypsy King, he's going with a different option. He's suggesting that we go with McEwen, Engels and Calmac, skipper coming back in. And San Fran adds a comment that Rio Hatate is a gamble every time. And I just think, whatever the manager goes with, Paddy, we have struggled to find this consistency. We've talked about it in all areas of the park, really. But there has been so much chopping and changing, necessitated by the relentless schedule. But I think we just need to settle down. I don't know who may come in, Kieran, Tierney, new left winger, all that stuff. And whoever comes in will look to have an impact. But for the here and now, for the guys we've got, I just think we need to settle that team across the board, particularly with Wednesday in mind, because as we say, and there's no drama from our point of view. It's Celtic's biggest European game in years. In years, it's so important, and it's such a huge opportunity. And I think we just need to find that consistency. And on that, Paddy, the front three, as you've suggested, if all are fit and available, and it seems they will be, should be Dyson Maeda on the left, Nicholas Kuhn on the right, and Kyogo through the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we're speaking about the biggest European game. I think we all know that this is such an important game tomorrow night as well. And if there's one manager that will get his team up for it, it's going to be Derek McInness. I think that a lot lies on a successful season, to be honest, considering we've come out the traps pretty quickly this year. We've took the League Cup, we're coasting in the league. So to play at that high level and that consistency, you should be looking to go and get Scottish Cup as well. But throw Europe into it, which is an incredible thing for us to be talking about. It makes for a very exciting end to the season. And I think that you'll definitely want to put a marker down tomorrow against Kilmarnock in terms of this is our trophy, we're not going to let it go. So I know we're obviously talking about Wednesday, and that is part of our focus, and it will be part of a manager's focus as well. But I think solely when it comes to tomorrow, he's got all eyes on that game and how to manage the team through that game as well.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, if we do go with that trio up top, and I think that's the move, there's no starting place for Adam Idah. Where are you at on Adam Idah, Paddy? The price tag's not done him any favours, but to a huge extent, do we need to forget that for now and just realise that there's a player there? I seen a comment, tongue in cheek and all that stuff. I think it was yesterday, saying that Adam Idah's the new Tony Cascarino. I don't remember Tony Cascarino scoring the winner in the Scottish Cup final. I don't remember him turning around games the way he done against Hibs and Motherwell and various other games during his initial loan spell at the club. Adam Idah doesn't have anything to prove in terms of the fact that he's a good and capable and effective striker. But what he does have to do is find it again. We know he's got it, but at the moment it's not happening. I think the record at the moment is that he's not scored in 12 games. For a Celtic striker, given the opportunities you get in a Celtic shirt, to not score in a dozen games, it's not great. And something needs to change. Now, most of it is on the player. A fair bit will be on the manager and the coaching staff in terms of giving him the confidence that he needs. But what do you think about where he's at just now and what's required to get him back to the levels that we know he's capable of?
I think he just needs to show a bit more hunger, a bit more desire. And I'm not saying that he hasn't showed that, but there just seems to be a worry about him in terms of his end product, his positioning, almost as if he's just not too familiar with how we were playing. I referred back to Ross County last week when Trusty was screaming at him to come shorter for the pass, and the way we were trying to play and we were trying to bring it out from the back. He does seem a little bit flat in his heels, and I don't think that's laziness. I wouldn't say it's laziness. I just think it's almost unfamiliarity. However, he's starting a few games lately, and he's training with this setup every single day. So I know you're saying about the coaching staff. I think it entirely comes down to the player in this one, and I want him to do well. I really, really like him. I think he was massive for his last season. I think he loves it here. I really do. But I also think it must be a difficult position to sit in when you're waiting for your chance, and then you're expected to take your chance and score all the time as well. I'm not taking that away from it, but I don't know. It just seems a little bit out of his comfort zone. And he needs to just try and find his way back in there, and he needs to accept that it's going to be difficult. If he's not going to get the number one jersey all the time, he's not going to be the main man up top all the time. What does he do to make the manager think differently? That's where they should be looking at, in my opinion. And I'm not seeing that. I've heard some of his comments at the beginning of this season, and it's all well and good. I like the idea of his thinking that he's part of a collective, he's part of a full setup, so he's not too bothered about not being the main striker. He'll come in and do his job when he needs to. But there comes a point where he has to look at his career, he has to look at his age and think, well, hang on, why have they spent this money on me? What am I doing? Do I want to play every single week? Do I want to burst a gut and come off the park absolutely knackered? Because at the moment, I just think it's like, all right, I'm allowed to play this week. Okay, how do we do this? And it just doesn't seem up to the pace of it at all.
I'll ask you two questions, Paddy. Number one, do you think his attitude and work rate are at the required standard? And number two, do you think the price tag is weighing heavy on him? Do you think that's something that's distracting him?
I don't think the work rate's gone. I don't think the work rate's away. I just think the attitude needs to be different in terms of seize your opportunity. If you're unsure about how to play in this system, then find out. You're at training 5 times a week. If there's no games, obviously, midweek as well. But you're part of that setup. You're part of that attacking setup. You're working alongside Kyogo. You're working alongside the 2 wingers. Find out what you need to do. And if you're still not getting to that point and you're still not hitting the marker that your manager wants, then that's when you start worrying. But for me, just the application needs to be a bit better. But work rate, I do see him burst a gut. I really do. And I do think that he tries. We speak about players that try too hard when they're trying to impress. We speak about Palma. We speak about Yang in those positions. I think every player that is on the side and gets those opportunities are more than likely to throw those kind of performances in. But I just think that if you really, really want that, and you've been a massive part of what Celtic was last season, you've won us the cup, you effectively played a massive part in us winning the league, then work off that experience. That be the guy that looks and says, do you know what? I should be here. I should be worth 9.5 million. I have fired this team to success in the past, but at the moment, it just seems like it's a little bit. I'll wait and see what the manager tells me to do, and if I get my chance, I'll see how I go.
Yeah, and just, you're right, he should. I've no doubt the manager will give him confidence. The manager will talk him up and put the arm around the shoulder when required. But he's a fairly experienced young man. He's played quite a lot of international football. He's been in and about it, down at Norwich during his time. He's played his huge part last season. I just think he's got enough life experience and football experience to now kick on. He's 23. He'll be 24 next month. And I just think it's all there for him. But he's out of sorts just now, and there's no getting away from that. Pat McLaughlin makes a good point that every striker has goal droughts, even the likes of Marco van Basten and Alan Shearer's had them. And even more so, he's saying that it took John Hartson 12 or 13 games to get his first goal for Celtic. And that worked out okay in the end up, Paddy. He says, but could you imagine that back in the day with the social media that goes on? Do you think
One thing I would say about all 3 of those players, and it's what Adam Idah you don't really see from, is that all 4, including Idah, know where the goal is, can finish a ball, no problem. The 3 that I mentioned there, Hartson, Shearer and Van Basten, they had aggression. It's proper aggression. It was, you look at, perfect example, a centre-half against our centre-half on Tuesday night. That guy had more aggression than what Auston Trusty had. And that's massive in football. That's where your belief comes from. That's when if the ball's bouncing one up in front of you and you're going to hit it, you're going to score. Because you've got that aggression. You've beat the player that's next to you. You've beat the player that's in front of you. He just needs to be a bit more aggressive in terms of what he's trying to do. He needs to have a bit more arrogance in it as well. I think we look at some of the players that we've had up front at Celtic in the past. I think the minute you start telling yourself, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, and have a bit of a swagger about you, it can sometimes go wrong. You need to have that aggression in every single game. And I look at Hartson, I look at Sutton, and I look at Larsson. All 3 of them are relentless.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think aggression, or more specifically, I see it as channeled aggression, controlled aggression, is so important to the modern footballer. It's not about swinging your elbows about and grabbing guys by the scruff of the neck and squaring up to guys. That's Joey Barton stuff. That's the wrong type of aggression. But to the guys you've mentioned, Shearer being a great example, Hartson, Sutton, Larsson, absolutely. These guys have got a kind of focused aggression, which just brings out the best of them. And Adam Idah and Auston Trusty would do well to maybe look towards those kind of attributes and see if you can work on them. I remember, again, I'm going back to some of the comments. We get some brilliant comments either during the lives or after some of the videos, and someone was saying that aggression cannot be coached. I totally disagree. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're timid and mild-mannered by nature and it's just not in you, then okay to an extent. Auston Trusty has shown aggression at times, and Adam Idah has shown aggression at times. They've got that within them. I don't think it's a million miles away from getting to where they're at, to the required levels of aggression. And I do think it's something that can be coached, and I think it's something that they need to bring more of to their game. So let's see where they go, Paddy. We'll move on from Idah and Trusty and all of those kind of things. Just one other guy I want to touch on, and again, Gypsy King in the comment is keen to see more of young Johnny Kenny. So obviously he came off the bench and had an impact against Ross County just last weekend. Do you see a place for him at some point coming off the bench against Kilmarnock? But then on that note, would he then be featuring against young boys? What a huge jump it would be for him, with all respect, to have done his Shamrock Rovers stuff this season, his Europa Conference League, and be potentially lined up for Champions League. Is he ready for that level? Do any of us know?
We don't. We don't. I think obviously we're going on 12 minutes. A performance in Ross County, and take nothing away from him. I thought he done very well when he came on. But I think that we will see Johnny Kenny in the second half of this season. Will it be involved in the next two games? Possibly, but I don't think for long periods. I really don't. I think that he's going to go with the tried and trusted over the next two games, and hopefully gets a bit of a song out of them. As I say, I think having the two wingers back, Tino, and having them back is going to be massive in our press in terms of bringing us up the park a bit. Even if both Kilmarnock or Young Boys try and go face to face with us, I think that they'll help us massively in terms of what pressure they can put on defences as well.
Yeah, definitely. For those that have been asking about Paddy's cat or missing Paddy's cat, very much in the background there, enjoying the show, which is lovely to see, Paddy. I like it.
Apologies.
Not at all. A few other comments coming in. Decent comment from Big Rab C, and Big Rab says Idah's only gone 5 full games without a goal on the amount of minutes he's had. Everyone needs to calm down, and that's a fair point. It's 12 games, but some of those 12 games are 10 minutes off the bench or cameos at times. So there's a fair point there. Pat McLaughlin, Pat's asked, what do we make of the David Pleat appointment? We covered it at the early part of the show, Pat. All in all, though, if he's still fit and able, it certainly can't do any harm, so no issues there. Eugene has asked, is Kenny in the Champions League squad? Good point. I don't think so. He certainly won't have been registered in the Champions League squad. And I don't know if you can register him now. It's a very valid question. So we should really do our homework, Eugene, before we...
You can't register him. No, you won't be able to.
So he certainly wouldn't be available for Young Boys in Valle. Would that be the case? And then we could maybe register if we progress. So we'll need to see. And just finally, San Fran says, surprised that Kenny never got a run out against Dundee when we needed a goal. Yeah, it's interesting. We shuffled the pack in various places, but we never made the change up front that might have made the difference. So we need to see. So maybe he comes on against Kilmarnock tomorrow. I think, as you've leaned towards, Paddy, though, with Wednesday in mind, specifically if he's not available, then maybe we don't see Johnny Kenny tomorrow, and it's the tried and tested, as you say. What about Kilmarnock? You've mentioned Derek McInness. He's obviously, at times, got decent results, over Celtic. Got a couple last year. He'll be very focused. At this moment in time, they're not having a great season. They're sitting 9th in the table, 4th bottom, if you want to look at it that way. But that's where a Scottish Cup run, you could really, kickstart a season or bring a season back to life. What do you think about the challenge that we'll face with Killie and how they'll address this one?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how he'll look at it, Tino. I think he'll smell an opportunity after the performance on Tuesday night that he could possibly come here and get something. He loves coming up against us. I don't think he's ever lost a game where he believes that Celtic deserve to win as well, if you listen to his post-match interviews. So I'd like to go and unconvincingly beat him 5-0, as he would put it, tomorrow. He loves playing against us, and I think that it's how he sets himself up against us. That you've seen it with his Aberdeen teams, you've seen it with his Kilmarnock team, that they like to frustrate the life out of us. And they like to keep it physical. They like to be a lot more direct, and they pack their box at any time they're under pressure. So we need to be patient tomorrow. Say that on Wednesday, as fans, we need to be patient as well, and just know that it's going to be backs to the wall for Kilmarnock tomorrow, and that's how the manager will set up and watch everything. It will be slow goal kicks, it will be slow throw-ins, slow corners, you name it. Just need to be patient and be clever against them.
It's funny, isn't it, for a lot of managers, Derek McInness included, being 1-0 down against Celtic, getting into the last 10 minutes isn't a huge issue. In fact, they're quite happy with that because they know that one set piece, one corner, one free kick, one lump into the box can pay dividends. They've got decent players up front. I think of guys like, Marley Watkins and a few others. Armstrong that plays out wide. They've got some talent in and around the squad, Matty Kennedy, and they know that on any given occasion, they can cause problems. How much do you think the likes of Kilmarnock will look to maybe the Rangers game, maybe the Dundee United game, and certainly Dundee the other night, and take the approach that actually, I don't like to say it, but at the moment there are vulnerabilities this Celtic team seemingly can be got at, particularly if we look at where Auston Trusty was at, down that left-hand side. There's inconsistency as to who's been playing left back. Do you think there might be a wee bit more encouragement for a club like that, who would traditionally sit in, park the bus, low block and all that, to maybe be a wee bit more aggressive?
Potentially. I think it comes down to, can his team sustain it? I think Dundee, young, fit team, very, I'd say Silla's one of our oldest players, and Simon Murray as well. But you see Murray come the end of the game, he couldn't move at one point. He ran a gut for Dundee. I don't think Kilmarnock have that as much. I don't think they have that in them. So they might try it for periods of the game, which we just need to be switched on for, probably in the last half an hour, 15 minutes, if they've kept us at bay. But I think we'll see a lot of the horseshoe tomorrow, and it's not a favourite of Celtic fans at the moment. I totally get that, but if you need to try and tire an opponent out, it's what Rodgers believes is the best way to do it, and I think that we'll just need to be patient. I don't think Kilmarnock come here and collapse after one goal as well, like you mentioned. I think he's quite good at getting his players switched on after losing an early goal down at McInness. So we'll see how it goes. I just think it'll be a bit of a slow game, but not through Celtic's own fault.
Yeah, it's a game where we might need to be patient, Paddy, but for the discussions recently, haven't we, about not booing, but some disgruntlement at Celtic passing back the way at nothing each, after 35, 40 minutes. We might see more of that tomorrow, and I think that's just part of the game. Sometimes you need to be patient, keep doing the right things, and hopefully you'll then come out the other side with the win. Paddy, I'll come to you shortly for your own scoreline predictions. Some good predictions coming in at the moment, and I'll highlight them just in a moment. Before we do so, just a quick reminder, we're running our latest January promo at the Celtic Exchange Plus, where you can win a framed photo from Gio at Big Lens Photography. We've partnered up with Gio of the very moment, Paddy, that Celtic clinched the League Cup against Rangers at Hampden last month. We've shared it on the socials. We'll reshare it in the coming days, but it is a brilliant image of all the players running towards Kasper Schmeichel. You can head to the celticexchange.supercast.com to sign up for that. Within that, you can enjoy ad-free listening, early access to the weekly show, and the chance to get into the draw. The draw will take place at the very start of February. Paddy, as I say there's scoreline predictions coming in, so let's get to them. We've got one from Rab C. He thinks 3-0, but a hard game at that. Pat McLaughlin thinks 4-0 and a red for Kelly. He's highlighted their discipline issues. I think they've had 7 or 8 red cards, which is ludicrous.
And McInness is saying that none of them are red as well, by the way.
None of them. No. Yeah, we'll see. Couple of other scores. Sean's gone for 3-0 too. Colin Rodgers has gone 4-0. So a couple of 3-0s, couple of 4-0s, Paddy. So no lack of confidence, given the way things have been, of recent, if you like, if you want to call it this kind of bump in the road against Dundee or otherwise. Final score, Gaza West, a bit more conservative. He's gone 3-1. He thinks we'll concede. Where are you at yourself? Clean sheets has been a thing. So Kasper Schmeichel's kept, I think it's now 17 of 23 in the league. But obviously within that, he's lost 3 at Dundee, 3 semi-recently at Rangers. And I think actually it was Pat McLaughlin that highlighted we've had 4 3-3 draws in the last 12 months. Generally speaking, though, defence and clean sheets has been a huge part of this season. So do you think we'll pick up another one tomorrow, or are we a wee bit vulnerable, a wee bit shaky at the moment?
No, I think, given some of the little results here or there that we've had, we've been waiting, as I said, on Idah, couldn't be fully fit. As I said a few weeks ago, I think we've been slowly but surely pushing our way back up the park in terms of where we're setting up for each game. I've seen, especially at Celtic Park, seen our back line more involved in their half. I do not love Del San Fran. More camped into the opposition half, and I just think that tomorrow we go and we try and be relentless against Kilmarnock. We try and break them down. As I say, it could be a slow game. I think 3-0 tomorrow. I do think that we go and try and get that early goal, and then just slowly but surely pick them off as they try and try and find their feet. And I'm as I say, I'm pretty sure Kilmarnock will have deserved to have won the game 4-3 once we hear the interview at the end of it, and that every Celtic goal there should have been a red card for Celtic or a free kick for Kilmarnock in the build up. Aye, that's just the way it goes against Derek McInness.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. Not a great loser at the best of times. I'm there or thereabouts, Paddy, with the 3-0 show. I'll go 3-1, so I'll agree with Gaza West. I'll go 3-1. I think Celtic will be too strong. Home form has been exceptional. That's been a huge plus for us. And as we know, Celtic never lost a home game in the whole of 2024. We've had some, very decent results there. And actually, the draw against Dundee wasn't great. It's a drop in standards, no doubt. But Celtic, since the turn of the year, since the game at Ibrox, we've won, what is it, 4-0, 3-0, 2-0, 4-1s. These kind of results. We're scoring goals, and I think we're more than capable of scoring again at Celtic Park. And I think we'll just be far too strong on the day. I like Eugene Ritchie's comment here. Trusty to score and to pass the physical test. I'd love to see it. So let's see how that plays out. And let me see. Pat says there's five have conceded at home domestically in all competitions this season. Yeah, so, home-wise, what is it then? It's let me think, the goals we've conceded at home. It'd be the...
Leipzig, Bratislava.
Domestically,
apologies, I didn't even read that bit there.
So it'd be Falkirk, 2 for Aberdeen, 2 for Falkirk, and 1 for Hibs in the League Cup. Yeah. Not bad. So defensively, we're very strong at Celtic Park. We got there between us eventually, Paddy. Very strong. And as Pat says, 3 in the League Cup. So just 2 league goals conceded. That's to Aberdeen, 3 in the League Cup. We're in good form there. Paddy, your final thoughts? It's a slightly unusual kickoff. It's 5:30 at Celtic Park. On that basis, it might be quite boisterous. It might be quite rowdy in a good way. That might make for a lively atmosphere. Again, it's one to look forward to. There can be a lot of doom and gloom at Celtic sometimes with some people. But when you take a step back, we're not in a bad position at all, are we? And I think, we can get caught in the moments of a Dundee game when things aren't particularly good. But you've got to step back and look at the bigger picture. And again, I stress this a lot. This is what the manager will be doing. We're recording just now. What are we at? Kind of 12:30, 1-ish on Friday. We've not heard the manager's comments. I expect them to be positive, upbeat, forward thinking. And it'll be interesting to see how he's looking at things, because I've no doubt that he'll have taken a moment with his players to say, okay, this is this, that's that. That's how things went at Dundee. But let's regroup and let's see where we're at. We're the best team in the country by a country mile. And he'll be looking to instill that belief back into his players ahead of tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think, having that full team back, bar obviously James Forrest and bar the potential of Alex Valle leaving, we'll be looking to go on that a bit of a run now, and again just kind of reassert that dominance that we've seen at the first part of the season. It's a sticky time to navigate through with the amount of games we're playing, Tino. I think we can all see that. I get people's worries about the fragility at the back, and I get people's worries about when teams come up face to face with us. I totally understand it. But I also just think that, the amount of games that we're playing, the amount of changes that we're making, you don't get that same consistency if you're having to do that all the time. And I think that the next 2 games, we should see that. We need to try and get behind, as I say, if we do see the likes of Rio Hatate come back in, Auston Trusty come back in, we get behind them and support them for these games, because they're massive for us. And I'm hoping for just a strong performance tomorrow, get a spring in everyone's step, get into the game on Wednesday night, because it's, as I think Ian O'Sullivan said, it's our biggest European game in 12 years. So, yeah, exciting times ahead.
Yeah, it's a massive game on Wednesday, but we need to focus on the here and now. And I think a real confidence-boosting, morale-boosting win against Kelly would put us in a great position for that. Paddy, thanks for joining us here this afternoon. Thanks, as always, to those who continue to join us in the live and make the comments and give us the questions. It's brilliant stuff, and it really helps us with what we do here. As I said, if you do listen to the Celtic Exchange podcast and want to continue supporting us, check out the celticexchange.supercast.com, where you can sign up for ad-free listening, early access to the weekly show, and the chance to win that brilliant framed photograph from the League Cup final. But in the meantime, for myself and Paddy, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully a big one at Celtic Park tomorrow. We'll see you again on the other side. All the best, guys.